Hello, my name is Annette. Have you ever had that gut-wrenching, ice-in-your-veins moment where you realize someone you trust, someone you're supposed to love unconditionally, is capable of destroying your life without a second thought? I have. And for me, that person was my own sister, Brianna. This isn't a story about a petty sibling rivalry over a borrowed sweater or a high school crush. This is a story about cold, calculated betrayal that threatened to shatter my entire future. It's about a $75,000 loan, a stolen identity, and the impossible choice I had to make between protecting my family and saving myself. Growing up in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado, Brianna and I were classic archetypes. I was the responsible one, the planner. I got good grades, saved my allowance, and meticulously mapped out my path to a stable career in finance. Brianna was the supernova, dazzling, spontaneous, and utterly reckless. She could charm anyone into doing anything, a skill she often used to get out of trouble. Our parents, bless their hearts, were completely under her spell. Any mess Brianna made, they were there to clean up, cooing about her free spirit while quietly reminding me to be more understanding. "That's just how she is, Annette," was the family mantra. For years, I accepted it. I loved her, and I bought into the narrative that I was the boring, stable rock, and she was the beautiful, chaotic wave. I lent her money I never saw again, co-signed on her first car lease when no one else would, and covered for her more times than I can count. I thought that's what sisters did. But there's a line between helping family and enabling their self-destruction, and a line between enabling them and allowing them to drag you down into the abyss with them. Brianna didn't just cross that line. She obliterated it with a forged signature and my social security number. And that's when I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to let the person you love face the consequences they've earned. This is the story of how I turned my own sister in for fraud. Before we embark on this incredible journey together, I have a small, heartfelt favor to ask. Please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up. It costs you nothing but means the world to me. And let me know in the comments which beautiful corner of the world you're watching from. Your support truly makes all the difference. The whole nightmare started, as these things often do, with a seemingly innocent request. It was a Tuesday afternoon in early May. The aspens outside my downtown Denver apartment were just starting to get their full green leaves, and I was neck-deep in quarterly reports for the small investment firm I worked for. My phone buzzed with a call from Brianna. I almost let it go to voicemail, but a familiar pang of sisterly obligation made me answer. "Annette, my favorite financial wizard, how are you?" Her voice was like honey laced with caffeine, always buzzing with an infectious energy. "Swamped, Bri, what's up?" I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Okay, so, you know my boutique, Bohemian Bloom? It's doing like amazing. The influencers are loving it. But I have this incredible opportunity to get in a new line of sustainable silk dresses from an indie designer in Portland. It's a game changer, Annie, but I need to put the order in now, and I'm just a little short on liquid capital." I sighed, already knowing where this was going. How short is a little short? 5,000. It's nothing really. I'll pay you back by the end of the month with interest. I swear, this shipment will sell out in a week. I pinched the bridge of my nose. $5,000 was not nothing. It was a significant chunk of my emergency fund. More importantly, I knew her track record. The "I'll pay you back next month" promises were as empty as her business's bank account probably was. For the first time in my life, I decided to hold my ground. "Bree, I can't. I'm sorry. I have my own finances to worry about, and I just can't take that risk right now." The silence on the other end was heavy and cold. The cheerful energy vanished. "Wow," she finally said, her voice dripping with venom. "Wow, Annette. I see how it is. You finally get your little high-paying job, and you can't even help your own sister, the one person who's always had your back." The irony was so thick, I could have choked on it. "That's not fair, and you know it," I started, but she cut me off. "No, what's not fair is you hoarding your money while I'm out here trying to build a dream. You've always been jealous of me, haven't you? Because I actually take risks, because I'm not afraid to live." The call ended with her hanging up on me. The conversation left a sour taste in my mouth, but I tried to shake it off. I was just setting a boundary, a long overdue one. A week later, I got an email alert from my credit monitoring service. "A new inquiry has been posted to your TransUnion credit file." I frowned. I hadn't applied for anything. I clicked the link and saw the inquiry was from a place called Pioneer Lending, a high-interest small business lender. I felt a knot form in my stomach. It was probably just a clerical error, I told myself, a typo in a Social Security number. There was no way. No way. I sent a text to Brianna. "Hey, weird question, but do you know anything about a company called Pioneer Lending?" Her reply came back almost instantly. "Never heard of them. Why?" I stared at the text, the denial so quick, so casual. A small, cold voice in the back of my mind whispered, "She's lying." But I pushed it down. I wanted to believe her. It was easier to believe in a clerical error than to believe my own sister was capable of something so dark. I made a mental note to call the credit bureau to dispute the inquiry and tried to forget about it, telling myself I was being paranoid. After all, she was my sister. For the next 2 weeks, an uneasy quiet settled between us. I didn't hear from Brianna, and I didn't reach out. Part of me was relieved, but the other part couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had taken root in my gut. My attempt to dispute the credit inquiry with TransUnion was a bureaucratic nightmare. I was stuck in a loop of automated phone systems and unhelpful customer service reps who told me I needed to file a police report to formally launch an investigation, which felt like a ridiculously extreme step for what I still hoped was a simple mistake. I decided to wait it out, hoping it would just fall off my report. The illusion of a simple mistake was shattered on a Saturday morning. I was collecting my mail when I saw a thick, cream-colored envelope with the return address of First National Business Bank. It was addressed to me, but below my name was C.O. Bohemian Bloom, followed by the address of Brianna's shop. My heart started hammering against my ribs. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a letter. The first words I saw were, "Congratulations on your pre-approval." My eyes scanned the page, my brain struggling to process the information. It was a pre-approval for a small business loan, for $75,000, in my name. The letter detailed the next steps, requesting copies of my most recent tax returns and pay stubs to finalize the offer. They even included a direct line to the loan officer, a Mr. Henderson, who was eager to help me grow my business. I sank onto the steps in my building's hallway, the letter shaking in my hand. $75,000. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a typo. This was a deliberate, calculated act. The Pioneer Lending inquiry suddenly made perfect sense. It was likely her first attempt, a test run with a less reputable lender that was probably denied, prompting her to go to a real bank. She had used my Social Security number, my good credit score, my name, the name I had worked so hard to build a reputation of reliability and trustworthiness around, to try and secure a massive loan for her failing boutique. The betrayal was a physical blow. It felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. All those years of her forgetting to pay me back, of me covering her rent, of our parents telling me to be the bigger person, it all coalesced into this one horrifying moment. This wasn't just recklessness. This was a fundamental violation of trust. She hadn't just tried to take money. She had tried to steal my entire identity, my financial future. If she had succeeded, I would have been on the hook for a debt I could never repay. My career in finance would be over. My life, as I knew it, would be ruined. I went straight to my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I paid for an immediate, detailed 3-bureau credit report. And there it was, in black and white, the hard inquiry from Pioneer Lending, and another one, just 3 days old, from First National Business Bank. The evidence was irrefutable. The cold dread from before was now a white-hot rage. I stood up, the letter clutched in my fist. I was going to her shop. I was going to confront her. The time for giving her the benefit of the doubt was over. Brianna's boutique, Bohemian Bloom, was located in the trendy Highlands neighborhood. It was exactly what you'd expect. Racks of overpriced floral dresses, artfully distressed wooden tables covered in tiny expensive candles, and the overwhelming scent of sandalwood. When I walked in, the little bell above the door chimed, and Brianna looked up from behind the counter, a bright fake smile plastered on her face. "Annette, what a surprise!" she chirped, as if she hadn't given me the silent treatment for weeks. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. I walked straight to the counter and slapped the pre-approval letter down in front of her. "Explain this," I said, my voice dangerously calm. Her eyes flickered down to the letter. For a split second, I saw it, a flash of pure panic. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a mask of innocent confusion. She picked up the letter, her brow furrowed. "What is this? First National Business Bank? Congratulations on your pre-approval." "Annie, this is addressed to you. Why are you showing it to me?" The audacity of her denial was breathtaking. "It was sent to your store, Brianna. It's for a $75,000 business loan, a loan that was applied for using my Social Security number." She let out a theatrical gasp and put her hand over her heart. "Oh my God, Annette, you think I did this? Are you serious right now? Someone must have stolen your identity. We need to call the police." "Stop it," I hissed, leaning closer. "Just stop it, Bree. I saw the credit inquiries, one from Pioneer Lending right after I refused to give you $5,000, and now this. Don't you dare stand there and lie to my face." Her feigned concern morphed into righteous indignation. "You know what? This is unbelievable. I cannot believe you would accuse me of something so horrible. I'm your sister. I would never, ever do that to you. You're just being paranoid because you're jealous that my business is finally taking off and you're stuck in your boring little cubicle." Her words were designed to hit me where it hurt, a tactic she'd perfected over years of arguments. But this time, it didn't work. The evidence was too clear, the betrayal too deep. "My boring little cubicle is what got me the 800 credit score you were so eager to use," I shot back. "This conversation is over." I turned and walked out, leaving her sputtering behind the counter. My next call was to our parents. I needed them to see what was happening, to finally step in and help me deal with her. I drove to their house in the suburbs, my mind racing. When I arrived, I found them in the living room. I laid out the evidence, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt. The initial loan request, her hostile reaction, the credit alerts, and finally the letter from the bank. My mother, Carol, took the letter and read it, her expression unreadable. My father, David, just stared at me. "There has to be a misunderstanding," my mom said finally, folding the letter neatly and placing it on the coffee table. "There is no misunderstanding, Mom. She used my information." "Annette, honey," my dad said, his voice taking on that familiar, placating tone he always used when defending Brianna. "Your sister is a little disorganized. Maybe she filled out a form online and accidentally typed in your information instead of hers. You know how she gets when she's excited about a new idea." I stared at them in disbelief. "Accidentally? Dad, she would have needed my social, my date of birth, my entire financial history. You don't accidentally commit felony identity theft." "Don't use that kind of language," my mother snapped. "You are determined to paint your sister as a villain. She's trying to build a life for herself. The least you could do is be supportive instead of making these wild accusations." It was then that I truly understood. They weren't just enablers, they were complicit in their denial. They would rather believe I was a paranoid, jealous liar than accept the truth about their precious Brianna. In their eyes, I was the problem for discovering the crime, not her for committing it. I was utterly, completely alone in this. Leaving my parents' house was like stepping out of a fog into a harsh, blinding reality. The last shred of hope that this could be resolved within the family was gone. They had made their choice, and it wasn't me. I drove aimlessly for an hour, the conversation replaying in my head. Their denial, their accusations, the way they looked at me as if I were the one causing trouble. The betrayal from my sister was a sharp knife, but my parents' refusal to see the truth was a slow, crushing weight. Back in my apartment, I sat in silence, the bank letter on my coffee table like a ticking bomb. What were my options? I could do nothing. I could let it go, call the bank, tell them I never applied, and hope Brianna didn't try again. But what then? She would get away with it. She would learn nothing, except that she could walk all over me, violate my trust in the most profound way, and face zero consequences. And what if she did succeed next time? What if a loan went through, and I was left to deal with the fallout? Or I could confront the situation head on. But how? Talking to her was useless. Talking to my parents was worse than useless. The only path left was the one I had been desperately trying to avoid. The legal one. The thought of reporting my own sister to the police made me physically ill. It felt like a betrayal of some sacred, unwritten family code. We were supposed to protect each other, no matter what. My phone rang, jolting me out of my spiraling thoughts. The caller ID was an unknown number from a local area code. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello? May I speak with Annette Evans?" a professional, male voice asked. "This is she," I said cautiously. "Ms. Evans, this is Robert Henderson from First National Business Bank. I'm the loan officer handling your recent application. I just have a few final questions to verify some information before we can move to the final underwriting stage. It all looks very promising." My blood ran cold. It was him, Mr. Henderson, the man from the letter. This was real. This was happening right now. I'm sorry, I stammered, my mind racing. "There must be some mistake. I didn't apply for a loan." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh," Mr. Henderson said, his friendly tone shifting to one of confusion and concern. "That's odd. We have a full application here, submitted online. It has your social security number, date of birth, address history. Everything seems to be in order. The application is for a $75,000 capital loan for a business called Bohemian Bloom." He was reading the details of my life back to me, the life my sister was trying to hijack. This was my moment of truth, my point of no return. I could hang up, pretend it was a prank call, and let the chaos continue. Or I could take the first step toward reclaiming my life. I took a deep breath, the decision solidifying in my heart like ice. "Mr. Henderson," I said, my voice steady and clear now, "my name is Annette Evans, and I am the victim of identity theft. That application is fraudulent. My sister, Brianna Evans, submitted it without my knowledge or consent." Another, longer pause. "I see," he said, the gravity of the situation dawning on him. "Ms. Evans, that is a very serious allegation. Identity theft for the purpose of loan fraud is a federal offense. We at the bank will have to file a report. I would strongly advise you to do the same with your local police department immediately." "I understand," I said, a strange sense of calm washing over me. "Thank you for letting me know. That is exactly what I am going to do." I hung up the phone. The choice was made. Brianna had pushed me to the edge, and my parents had let her. Now they were all about to find out what happened when I finally decided to push back. Walking into the Denver Police Department's District 6 station felt surreal. The air smelled of stale coffee and disinfectant, a stark contrast to the fragrant, deceitful atmosphere of Brianna's boutique. I sat in a hard plastic chair, clutching a folder containing all my evidence, the credit reports, the bank letter, a log of the calls and texts. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a profound sense of finality. I was about to detonate a bomb in the middle of my family, and there would be no going back. After a short wait, I was led to a small, windowless office to speak with a Detective Miller. He was a man in his late 40s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He listened patiently as I laid out the story, my voice catching only once or twice. I expected judgment or disbelief, but he simply nodded, his expression unchanging as he reviewed my documents. "So, the applicant is your sister," he stated, not as a question, but as a confirmation. "Yes," I whispered. "And you're certain you want to press charges?" he asked, looking me directly in the eye. "Once this process starts, it's out of your hands. It becomes a state matter. You can't just change your mind later if you have a family dinner and decide to forgive her." His bluntness was jarring but necessary. He was giving me one last out. I thought of Brianna's smug denial, of my parents' blind defense of her. I thought of the $75,000 debt that could have destroyed me. "I'm sure," I said, my voice firm. "She needs to be held accountable." The process took hours. I filled out forms, signed affidavits, and gave a formal, recorded statement. Every detail I provided felt like another nail in the coffin of my relationship with my family. When I finally walked out of the station, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the pavement. I felt strangely hollowed out, a mixture of grim resolve and overwhelming sadness. My first call was to my parents. I felt I owed them the courtesy of hearing it from me before the police showed up at Brianna's door. "Mom," I said when she answered, "I just wanted to let you know that I've filed a police report against Brianna for identity theft and loan fraud." Silence. Then a choked, furious sound. "You what?" "They had to know," I said, my voice flat. The bank was already launching their own fraud investigation. This was going to come out one way or another. "How could you do this to your own sister?" she shrieked, her voice escalating with every word. "How could you do this to your family? You are trying to ruin her life. You'll send her to prison." My dad got on the phone. His voice wasn't yelling. It was worse. It was full of cold, deep disappointment. "Annette, I don't know who you've become, but you are no daughter of mine. To turn on your own blood like this, it's monstrous. Don't call this house again." The line went dead. I stood on the sidewalk, phone in hand, and for the first time, I let the tears fall. They weren't just for the sister I had lost, but for the parents who had chosen her over me, over the truth. The bomb had gone off, and the fallout was immediate and devastating. I had saved my future, but in the process, I had become an orphan. The days that followed were a blur of numb routine and agonizing silence. The digital umbilical cord to my family was severed completely. My calls went unanswered. My texts were left unread. I saw on social media that my mother had posted a vague, passive-aggressive quote about the pain of being betrayed by those you trust. The comments from extended family were a chorus of support. For her, I was the villain, the cold-hearted sister who had thrown her sibling to the wolves. No one reached out to hear my side of the story. About a week after I filed the report, Detective Miller called. "Just wanted to give you a heads up, Ms. Evans. We executed a warrant at your sister's residence this morning. She was taken into custody and is being processed." Hearing those words, "taken into custody," should have felt like a victory, a moment of vindication. Instead, it just felt bleak. I pictured Brianna, stylish and proud, being put in handcuffs. I imagined her fear and humiliation. A wave of guilt washed over me so intensely it made me nauseous. Had I gone too far? That evening, my friend and colleague, Mark, insisted on taking me out for dinner. He was one of the few people I had confided in, and his reaction was one of unwavering support. "You did what you had to do, Annette," he said, as we sat in a quiet Italian restaurant. "She put you in an impossible position. This isn't your fault. It's the consequence of her actions." "It doesn't feel that way," I mumbled, pushing pasta around my plate. "I feel like I'm the one being punished. She has my entire family rallying around her, paying for her lawyer probably. I have you, and a massive legal bill on the horizon to clear my name with the credit bureaus." "Then I guess I'll have to be enough," he said with a small smile. "Look, They're reacting emotionally right now. They're in shock. Maybe in time they'll see you were the one who was wronged." I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't. I knew my parents. Their defense of Brianna wasn't just a reaction. It was a core part of their identity. Admitting I was right would mean admitting they had failed, that their perception of their perfect, free-spirited daughter was a lie. The legal process was slow and intimidating. I had to give statements to the district attorney's office. I saw the evidence they had compiled: the digital application from Brianna's IP address, the testimony from the bank's fraud department, the phone records. It was an open and shut case. Brianna's high-priced lawyer, undoubtedly paid for by our parents, tried to float a ridiculous defense: that I had been a willing participant in the loan application and was now backing out due to a sibling dispute. It was a desperate, transparent lie, and it only hardened my resolve. During this time, the emotional toll was immense. I had trouble sleeping. My work suffered. Every time my phone rang with an unknown number, I'd flinch, thinking it was a family member calling to scream at me. The isolation was the worst part. It felt like Brianna hadn't just stolen my identity. She had stolen my family, my history, my entire support system. I was an island, and the tide was rising. Mark remained my lifeline, checking in, making sure I was eating, and reminding me that I was stronger than I thought. He was right, but some days it was hard to feel it. I had won the battle for my financial future, but it felt like I had lost the war for everything else. The day of Brianna's plea hearing arrived on a cold, gray November morning. For weeks, I had been dreading the possibility of a full trial, of having to get on a stand and testify against my own sister, to have her lawyer tear me apart while my parents watched from the gallery. But the evidence was so overwhelming that the DA had offered her a deal, and to my immense relief, she had decided to take it. I wasn't required to be at the courthouse, but I went anyway. I needed to see it through. I sat in the back, wearing a plain black coat, feeling like an anonymous ghost. Mark had offered to come, but I told him I needed to do this part alone. When they brought Brianna in, she looked smaller than I remembered. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple dark suit. Her usual confidence was replaced by a visible tremor in her hands. She wouldn't look at me, but she knew I was there. I could feel it. Our parents were in the front row, my mother clutching a tissue, my father staring straight ahead, his jaw set like stone. The proceedings were quick and impersonal. The judge read the charges: aggravated identity theft, loan fraud. He asked Brianna how she pleaded. "Guilty," she said, her voice barely a whisper. It was the first time I had heard her admit it, the first acknowledgement of her crime. It wasn't an apology, not to me, but it was the truth, spoken aloud in a court of law. The terms of the plea bargain were laid out. No prison time, which was a relief I hadn't realized I was desperate for. Instead, she received 5 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory financial counseling. Crucially, she was also ordered to pay full restitution. Not to me for the emotional damage, of course, but for the legal fees I had incurred clearing my name and the costs the bank had incurred during its investigation, a sum that totaled just over $8,000. As the judge concluded, my parents rushed to Brianna's side, hugging her as she began to cry. As they turned to leave, my father's eyes met mine across the courtroom. There was no flicker of understanding, no hint of reconciliation, just a look of pure, undiluted hatred. He saw me as the source of his daughter's tears, the architect of her public humiliation. In that moment, I knew that the chasm between us was permanent. I had hoped, naively, that her guilty plea might open their eyes. It hadn't. It had only cemented my status as the family pariah. I left the courthouse and walked through the cold city streets. A strange sense of anticlimax washed over me. It was over. I had won. My name was cleared, my credit was secured, and Brianna was facing consequences. This should have been the triumphant end of the story. So why did I feel so empty? I had protected myself, yes, but the cost was my entire family. I had traded my past for my future. It was a deal I'd had to make, but standing there alone on the cold pavement, I wasn't sure if I would ever feel whole again. The end of the battle didn't feel like peace. It just felt like silence. It's been a little over a year now since the hearing. Life is different. It's quieter. The financial damage was contained. I spent months working with the credit bureaus and a lawyer to get the fraudulent inquiries expunged from my record, and Brianna, under the watchful eye of her probation officer, makes a small restitution payment to me every month. It's a bitter, consistent reminder of what happened. I never did reconcile with my parents. I sent a card for my mom's birthday, but I never heard back. From what I've gleaned online, they helped Brianna rebrand her now-defunct boutique into an online-only venture. In their narrative, she's a resilient entrepreneur who overcame a difficult period. I am never mentioned. It's as if I've been completely erased from the family history. Mark and I are together now. His steady presence has been the anchor in the storm of the last year. He's helped me build a new kind of family, a chosen one, built on respect and honesty, not just obligation. Some days are good. We go hiking in the Rockies, we cook dinner together, we plan for a future that feels secure, a future I fought for. But other days, the grief ambushes me. I'll hear a song on the radio that Brianna and I used to love, or I'll see a mother and daughter laughing together in a grocery store, and the ache is overwhelming. There's a scar on my heart where my family used to be. I don't regret what I did. I know with absolute certainty that it was the right and only choice for my survival. But I want to be clear with all of you. This kind of victory doesn't come with a parade. It comes with sleepless nights and a lingering sadness. It's the complicated, messy, and painful reality of setting a boundary that an entire family refuses to respect. I saved myself, but I'll carry the cost of that choice forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever faced an impossible choice like this, please share your thoughts below. It helps to know we're not alone. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more stories about navigating life's toughest challenges. Your support means everything.